What if you could have a career where the opportunities are as vast as our nation, where it's not about mission statements, but a shared mission? At U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we go beyond to protect more than borders. From ship to shore, air to ground, cities to local communities, CBP agents and officers are keeping people safe. Join U.S. Customs and Border Protection and go beyond for something far greater than yourself. Learn more at cbp.gov/careers.
Talking about
this is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as I do the second hour of the Brian Kilmeade Show, following up from Sid, I'm trying to remain cool, calm, and collected here, Justin Ellick, based on how you guys were taking shots at me in the 6 o'clock hour. Unbelievable shots at me. I mean, these were below the belt. These were gonad shots in which there were no Everlast gloves on. Instead, they had lead-lined gloves on, and they were pounding away at my family jewels. Metaphorically, of course. So the reason that I'm playing this song, which is from Hair, Fifth Dimension, is because I started out, there was such a good mood when I was listening to Sid at 6, and I always do. You got to listen to Sid all 4 hours, and if you can't listen all 4 hours, you catch it on, obviously, the podcast. But when I was listening, you started out, Lou Ruffino, with such a great song, which was such a mood elevator, with Mariah Carey and Boyz II Men. Oh, my God, that was so good. I know it's in honor of the wedding anniversary that Danielle and Sid will be celebrating tomorrow. So I started out and I said, man, that is a great song. And then all of a sudden went all downhill after that. As the morning crew of fiends, no friends of mine, just started to pound away. Justin Ellick, I could hear you like a jackal, like a viper, like a hyena laughing in the background. As Sid Rosenberg just completely made fun of me and eviscerated me about my ability to carry my own hour of the 2-hour Brian Kilmeade Show.
So when they initially asked to do the extra hour today for Kilmeade, I said no. He said, but they really don't want Curtis doing the extra 2 hours. So eventually I caved in.
And what happened was, I'm not even going to play it, all the cackling and laughing, especially Justin Ellick. That's become a sort of trade of broadcasting. So apparently management did not want to possibly allow me to do all 2 hours in order to allow Sid Rosenberg to extricate himself and go to that memorial dedication and the commemoration for the loss of that young lady who was struck by a car in the Rockaways, whose name was similar to his daughter, Ava. Yeah, I get that. But also the other reason that I'm playing this music here is that Sid Rosenberg, against my better advice, decided he was going to go out to the Hamptons. And he didn't realize that the Swedish House Mafia was playing electronic dance music at its best at the Shinnecock Reservation out there. And I'll never forget how Sid said to me, what do you mean Swedish House Mafia? Is there a sixth family of organized crime now that I didn't know about? The Genovese, the Gambinos, Lucchese's, Columbos, Bonanos, and the Swedish House Mafia? No, schmuck. It's electronic dance music, and it did tie up the Hamptons in knots. There's a lot of young white kids were going out there in their teens, young adults, taking Molly, taking ecstasy, smoking weed, and wearing pastel colors, like they're all out at the beach. But he did say something really important, because I noticed that a lot of folks this time of year, especially as we leave the spring and go right into the heat of summer, gather around, whether they're vacationing or they're just milling about on their back porch or they happen to be in the yard, and especially when the ladies get together. I call them the yentas. And I've seen it all through my years. I'm 70 years old, but I remember my aunts, and they were all Italians, gathering together. There was Aunt Louise, there was Aunt Lucy, there was my mother Francesca, who was always timid and intimidated by sitting down with the tarot cards, thinking she was going to go straight to hell. And my Aunt Mary and my cousin Jeannie and all of my other cousins, Rebecca, Loretta. I mean, I'll go through the whole laundry list, and they would all sit down there while the guys were in the other room or they were out on the patio playing cards all day, all night, and smoking cigarettes, remember, and drinking coffee. The ladies would be playing the tarot cards. And I remember that I'd be sitting there as a little kid, and I'd be watching them as they would arrange a weekly tarot card reading by the number one yenta, whoever it was in that neighborhood. For us, it was Canarsie, it was East New York. For others now, it's Howard Beach. You could extrapolate that throughout the tri-state area. There's always one, a head yenta. And I never forget that the lady sitting there would say to the head yenta, who was matching the tarot cards, what do the cards have in store for my zodiac sign? And one thing I learned from Sid this morning is that, like me, he's an Aries. An Aries. And I got to tell you, when you're talking about tarot, you don't need to know the difference between a 3-card and a Celtic cross spread. All you need to know is your sun sign. That's what I learned by sitting with the yentas and being amused, because I wasn't going to sit with my uncles, the degenerate card players, because they were always moaning and groaning and talking about who they owed a vig to because they were degenerate horse players, and the cigarette smoke after a while would just like, it would permeate all your clothes and go right into your skin pores. So I learned a lot. And I'll tell you this, in addition to that, I know Sid was talking about the anniversary of the passing of his father. Obviously, my father, Chester, my mother, Francesca, are no longer there. The other thing that the ladies would often do, and Justin Ellick, I don't know if this was true in your family, or Lou Rufino, when you were growing up in Rockland County, is they'd pull out the Ouija board. Oh, and my mother, Francesca, had a heart attack. She goes, for sure I'm going to hell. This is satanic. I can't sit here. And her sisters, my Aunt Louise, my Aunt Lucy, my Aunt Mary, my cousins, Jeannie, Rebecca, Loretta, all of them, and Sylvia, they would all say, sit here, don't worry about it. Angie, sit here, it's okay. It's okay. But she'd say, this is satanic. I'm a Roman Catholic. She goes to Mass on Sundays, Novena on Monday, lights the candle, stations to the cross, never drops the F-bomb. Goes to confession whenever she can, even though maybe she committed a venial sin, never a mortal sin, and never a violation. But she said, this is like an occult. And they would say, no, Francesca, we're going to use the Ouija board. It was flat. I remember they had letters of the Latin alphabet on it. Yes, no, 0 to 9, if I remember correctly. And that head yenta would use sort of like a divining rod and spell out the messages in what was clearly a seance. I don't know if if Sid himself has ever been subjected to that, but I will tell you this, Justin Ellick, if he keeps going back to the Hamptons now, hopefully he's a one-time only Hamptons visitor, but I have a feeling he's not. If you look at his Instagram, the guy is hooked on the Hamptons. He may be giving up the Irish Riviera, the Rockaways. He may be giving up Plum Beach. That was my favorite, right along the Belt Parkway. But I got to tell you this. It looked to me in his Instagram post that he is hooked, hook, line, and sinker. But when they would operate the Ouija board, I remember the women would actually say that they were channeling the dead. You know, like Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hey, Justin, right there in Chappaqua, you know, where even the lawn jockeys are white, next to her love shack. She'd go to the Starbucks that you lived right next to. She'd line up for her double latte, and then she would go walking through the nearby forest areas, especially when the leaves had fallen in the fall, and talk to Eleanor Roosevelt, right? Channel Eleanor Roosevelt. Everybody knew that, Justin, in Chappaqua. The wealthiest and whitest suburb in America where, yeah, Justin Ellick grew up. So it gives you a good idea what his background is. But there are a lot of people who believe you can channel the dead. Some believe you can do it through a Ouija board. Others will have a seance. Others believe you can do it through spirituality, through prayer. I don't discount any of that. I would love to be able to talk to my dad. I would love to be able to talk to my mother. And I don't want any church or any religious group to tell me that I couldn't try, if it was at all possible, to have a conversation with them again. But I will tell you this, when Sid Rosenberg told me that his sign was Aries, that's my sign. I forgot what his date of birth was. I think Aries is from March 21st to about April 19th. I'm March 26th. I just want to read to you, because in the New York Post every day, it's the only astrological horoscope that I use. And I use it every day to guide my life. And I tell you, it's very important. Ronald Reagan found that out the hard way, even though his wife Nancy was constantly telling him, you need to focus on the astrological chart. If you had followed the chart as it was told to me by my contact, you would have avoided going to that hotel, and Hinckley wouldn't have shot you, almost killing you, and handicapping your press attaché and shooting a Secret Service guy and a Washington, D.C. police officer before he was apprehended. And voila, he's out. That's right, Hinckley's out there doing concerts, believe it or not. Madonna mine. But let me just read to you from Aries, and I'm going to hope to convey this to Sid, hopefully, who's listening on his way to the speed ferry to the Rockaways. Hey, Sid, Aries, you need to let someone know that if they don't stop trading in rumors, they are going to regret it. You don't have to make threats as such, but you do need to remind them that you have more dirt on them than they have on you. Oh, boy, that can apply to a lot of what Sid Rosenberg was talking about this morning. But it is that time of year, I'm telling you, when if none of this activity took place in the fall, winter, or even in the spring, summertime is when the ladies break out the tarot cards and have the tarot card readers there available as they have their coffee clutch, while the guys would be in the other room playing cards, you know, blackjack or poker. It was a way of life for so many people, and naturally, if you were so interested in trying to contact your loved ones, no matter who it was who had left this plane, no matter what circumstances, don't tell me that you didn't see or you didn't gather around your moms, your grandmas, your aunts, your cousins, when they pulled out that Ouija board and tried to channel their relatives who were no longer here, or even their friends. I don't know about you. It was part of my growth process. I didn't think it was satanic. I didn't believe that all of a sudden I was going to go straight to hell without an asbestos suit. I just wanted a heads up on maybe what was coming down the pipe through astrology. The New York Post has the best. Tarot cards, I certainly watch the women having a great deal of entertainment by having a weekly tarot card reading with the tarot card readers, you know, the quote, so-called professionals, and definitely when they indulged in the Ouija board to try to speak to their loved ones, as I mentioned, as Hillary Rodham Clinton has claimed on many an occasion, while skipping through the surrounding forests of Chappaqua with her double latte, Starbucks in her hand, as she's talking directly to Eleanor Roosevelt. Oh, love the Ramones. I think they were living in Forest Hills at the time they wrote this. They loved going out to Rockaway Beach. I don't know anyone who did not like going to Rockaway Beach. Although I will tell you, Lou, not being able to park west of Beach 116th on the side streets was a real message to the rest of us out of community residents. I'll be nice. There was a certain term they had for us in the 60s. Not going to use that term. Well, couldn't park your cars on the side streets like Manhattan Beach. Can't park your car on the side streets. So you want to schlep to Manhattan Beach in Brooklyn, you got to schlep. Park somewhere else. But I'm not talking about parking. One of the key stories, the trauma continues as a family lost two of their young adult boys who was swimming in Reese Park about Bay 2nd. As you know, it's been hot and sweltering, and they were ready to take a final dip before they went home. I used to do that all the time. You know, you want to wash off the sand, you go into the surf, you take a swim, you come back out, and you try to dress up or at least put on some clothes as close to the surf as possible. I used to do that all the time. Except they swam out there, and apparently the rip currents got them. And boy, the rip currents can be extraordinarily strong. And if you don't know what to do, many times it has led, if a lifeguard can't get to you in time, your demise. And the body may not appear for 5-6 days until gases begin to emerge internally, and then the body floats up. So right now, these two young men are MIA. The NYPD, FDNY, and other agencies have thrown every resource they can into trying to find the bodies. And the mother and the father continue to pray, hope for a miracle. It seems to happen every summer. It's extraordinarily rough turf there in the Rockaways. As my dad warned me, I mean, he was an expert swimmer, grew up swimming in Lake Michigan. He said, look, you swim near those groins. And by the way, Justin Ellick, the groin has nothing to do with the male anatomy. The groins are important because oftentimes when storms come, if groins have been built up out there, they can help prevent a lot of beach erosion and damage. And then you got the natural rock foundations out there. You got the rip currents. The waves are enhanced. 80% of lifeguard rescues are because of riptides and sometimes undertow. So as my dad explained to me, because I'm nowhere near as good a swimmer as him, he said, look, let it pull you out to sea. Relax. Go with the flow. Float on your back. Just don't try to swim against the riptide. Because you could be swimming so hard, you'll get exhausted and you'll go down at Davy Jones's locker. Or if you're really fighting the riptide, you might get swimmer's cramp. And if you cramp up, you got double trouble. The answer of the city, they have a depletion of lifeguards, not enough. Eric Adams and his administration did not at all begin the preemptive preparation and training necessary to become a lifeguard, because you can't just be a good swimmer. You have to know CPR, first aid. You got to know when you swim out there to try to rescue a swimmer or swimmers that oftentimes they resist you. And the city's answer has been drones. The drone will float over you, It'll drop a buoy like in Baywatch, and somehow you'll grab on, latch on, and it'll prevent you from going under. And that ain't going to work. And obviously, we pray for that father and mother who are devastated by what transpired. Look, lifeguards are on duty 10 to 6, and there aren't enough lifeguards here. And it's not just New York City, the beaches and the pools that are soon to open. You can go right across the south end of Long Island. You can go right down the Jersey Shore. Oftentimes, there's just not enough lifeguards. And it's interesting because when I was at Juniors yesterday, and a guy walked up to me, and I always ask them, as you know, Justin, what high school did you go to? Because that's how I know about you, because I never went to college. So if you told me, I went to Brooklyn College, it means nothing to me. But if you tell me what high school you went to, it tells me a lot about you. And he said, I went to Truman High School. I said, oh, you mean next to Co-op City, the old Freedom Land? I said, you used to have an Olympic-sized swimming pool there, state of the art. He said, yeah, it was great. We go in swimming class once a week for gym. I said, they turned that into a storage pit. He almost cried there. And this is true of a lot of our public high schools. They drain the pools, many of them Olympic-sized swimming pools in urban areas, and they turned it into storage pits. And then you have a number of the Catholic high schools that had swimming teams and pools, like the one that I went to, Brooklyn Prep. They closed in 72. Many others have closed. So you normally get a lot of young men, and nowadays young women, if they were regularly swimming on the normal basis of using the school pools, they might think, gee whiz, maybe I can qualify for a lifeguard. And then you got to go through extensive training. And then we heard the horrible story that Noam Laden had gave us about West Haven, the beach there in Connecticut, where a guy from Queens drove out there with his 2 children and he tried to drown them. Oh, the horror of what that must be. Can you imagine what kind of a monster has taken hold of his mindset, his psyche, that he would try to drown his 2 young children? His wife had no idea where he had gone with his 2 young children. Reminds me a year before on Coney Island, a woman was in horrible distress and she tried to drown her 3 children in Coney Island. I think 1 died, 2 others survived. But, it just shows you how much emotional distress there is amongst people in our population who are not getting help or not seeking help. We don't have our mental health hospitals open for them to take care of them and normalize them. And then we wonder how these tragedies can occur. Thank God those cops who are vigilant were out there patrolling at 4 a.m. and stopped this guy before he drowned both his kids. And I would bet you, if all of a sudden you were able to interview this guy, Justin, he would tell you that he heard voices that were telling him to drown his children. And you know who's the best expert on this in the entire world? Our own Dominic Carter, who's on now 3 to 4. And then at night you can pick him up again from 12 midnight to 1. They've just syndicated his show at night. I got to tell you, he self-published a book. His own mother was consumed with the demons of mental health issues. She tried to kill him. There's no better expert. There's nobody who knows more about mental health distress. He's lectured all over the country. I believe he was in St. Louis this weekend lecturing on that. It is a silent story that nobody wants to talk about. They take the Code of Omerta. It is a horror. You think that mother wanted to kill her children? Do you think Dominic's mother wanted to do him harm? Of course not. But these are things we don't want to talk about again. If I had been lucky enough to be elected mayor against Eric Adams, immediately I would have went to Dominic Carter and I would have said, look, you got to be in charge of mental health issues here. That fake, phony, fraudulent Bill de Blasio and his crooked wife Charlene, who created that organization that ripped us off for $1.5 billion, Thrive, and never cared for one emotionally disturbed person. Look at all these stories. All over the weekend, emotionally disturbed people acting out all over the weekend. And Eric Adams, swaggerman, you know where he was, Justin? He was out there in the Hamptons, not with Sid, but at other parties getting wine, dined, and pocket line. They said, hey, we got a huge problem with this issue in our city. There are so many people in need, and not just in New York City, but throughout this country, and we are not prioritizing this at all. Instead, they deinstitutionalized those horror houses like Creedmoor, like Greystone. We can go through the whole laundry list, Pilgrim State, and then just dump people into the streets. You know, it's either feast or famine. You throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's absolutely complete insanity. It just gives you a smidgen of what's been happening. But what I also wanted to point out to the folks in the Rockaways is that they have an intention to have, believe it or not, a migrant beach rally on July 7th. Our nation's holiday is July 4th. It might be interesting to actually introduce them to the concept of July 4th, our Independence Day, especially the 3,000 who were there at Floyd Bennett Field, mostly of them Venezuelans, most of them who were cut loose by Maduro, as Castro had similarly done it in 1980 when he got rid of his criminals out of his jails, those who had mental health issues out of his insane asylums, and any dissidents who wanted to topple him. He just sent them to that sucker, that softy Jimmy Carter, who was on the shores of Florida. 120,000. They spread all over the country. They were fighting with the Colombians to control the drug trafficking of cocaine. And a movie 2 years later was made featuring Tony Montana, that's right, Al Pacino, in Scarface. And now we're going through the same process. So if they're here, and I don't want them here, because they came illegally, they didn't come the right way. We believe in legal immigration. Why not introduce them to how we celebrate July 4th and Independence Day? In fact, yesterday when we had the car caravan of 200, and I want to thank everybody who came out to Marine Park to begin the rally to close Floyd Bennett Field down, the migrant tents, because it's a floodplain. It's not good for the migrants, and it's not good for the neighborhoods. It's deteriorated the quality of life and led to an increase in crime. As we went through the streets of Marine Park, Mill Basin, up Flatbush Avenue, into Floyd Bennett Field itself, across the Gil Hodges Bridge, through the Irish Riviera, just spreading the word like Paul Revere that we got to shut it down. At two separate points in the rallies, I was permitted to speak in the microphone, and I made it very clear. This is not anti-immigrant. This is pro-legal immigration.
Out of everybody who's upset about this, the first-generation immigrants, no matter what their country of origin, they had to jump through hoops. They had to bide their time. They still have family members and friends who are back in the country waiting to get in the legal way, the right way. This rally says we support immigration, but legal immigration.
Flying American flags, we were joined by many first-generation immigrants. Those family and friends are still waiting to come in the legal way in their countries of origin. I remember some were there from Colombia, some were there from the Dominican Republic, some were there from mainland China, China itself. Others were there. I couldn't quite catch where they had come and immigrated legally into our country to. But they're the ones who are most strongly opposed to what is happening. Just letting people cross our borders, be greeted by Catholic Charities, which is a racket that needs to be investigated as they take our federal tax dollars from the Biden administration and aid and abet the migrants in terms of choosing routes of departure from the Texas border, the Arizona border, the California border with Mexico. And where would you like to go? You want to go to Los Angeles or San Francisco? You want to go to Phoenix? You want to go to Denver? You want to go to Chicago, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, Boston, or New York? And 9 out of every 10 want to come to New York City, courtesy of Catholic Charities. And many of you need to approach your parish, your Catholic parish, whether there's still any priests left, because a lot of them they're not, whether it's a deacon in charge, whoever, and say, why the hell are we letting Catholic Charities destroy our country? Why? And I don't mind being the AMP Catholic to say that. Ashes on Wednesday, palms on Sunday, then you don't see me for a month of Sundays. And probably the most Catholic of all immigrants are the Haitians. Oh, my God, you go to Canarsie, where I've turned my mom and dad's house on 89th and J into a guardian angel headquarters because it's a high-crime area. You go to my parish, Our Lady of Miracles, where I went originally, or you go to Holy Family or St. Jude's. The place is packed, Creole masses, Haitians. Oh, my God, are they dedicated Catholics. But I've warned the folks in the Rockaways, and they got 10 ears. I've been like Paul Revere, going up and down, Rockaway Beach, Broad Channel, the ponds and out to Breezy Point, and I said, the Haitians are coming. As some of them even swim through shark-infested waters to escape the implosion of their country that is now run by a gang member called Barbecue. I mean, you say, well, who's the president of Haiti? A guy named Barbecue, who leads one of the many gangs that basically, through anarchy, through insurrection, have toppled the government there, and they rule. And they're raping, and they're pillaging, and they're robbing, and they're burning down houses. And if you happen to be a Haitian there, you might try to escape to the Dominican Republic across the mountains, but they've got their military there with razor wire, and they'll shoot you if you try to walk into their country. So their only option, if they are going to escape, is to take the 83-mile trek that'll take them directly to Riviera Beach. There's a direct line in Palm Beach County, north of Dade. And DeSantis has said, as many more Haitians flood into Florida, and it has the number one Haitian-American population, he will put them on buses like Abbott does in Texas to those who cross his border with Mexico, and he will send them right to New York City. And you know why? Because Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, upon learning that Haiti was imploding, actually texted out that New York City is the Port-au-Prince of America, and actually provided links of, if you get to America, how you can make your way to New York City with the help of Catholic Charities. Is that crazy or what? So I'm going to warn all of you, as I did yesterday at that rally, and again, I can't praise you enough for coming out in that heat. 200 strong. People in cars, pickup trucks, American flags festooned everywhere, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and bikers. We were all in solidarity. And I warned you, and I'm going to warn you again. If DeSantis sends the Haitians north, which he has threatened to do, if it becomes too much for Florida, and it's starting to get to that point, they're going right to Fort Tilden. They've got the tents already in storage. It'll take them 3 days to put up the tents, as it did originally in Creedmoor out on Hillside Avenue in Queens, right before the border of Nassau County. 3 days. They cannot house the Haitians with the Venezuelans, because the Venezuelans are like a house gang. You're going to hear up next, in the next hour, the Rip and Read, as they basically run all the migrant shelters. If you happen to be a migrant from another area, forget it. The house gang in charge of the Venezuelans, because so many of them are thugs and thugettes who came out of the jail systems and gulags of Maduro. And guess what? He won't take them back. He will not take them back. So you can't mix the Haitians with the Venezuelans. So they're going to have to provide a brand new facility with them, and it's going to be Fort Tilden. So if you don't organize now, I'm like Paul Revere. You don't like the sound of the message? Hey, do me a solid. Don't shoot the messenger me, because so many other people have tried to shoot the messenger and kill me before.
Yeah. I'm a racer. You know it. We can't wait to break.
Oh, the stench of weed is everywhere, engulfing our city as it is nearby Philadelphia. Oh, my God, if you've been in Philly, that's bad, if not worse. President Trump had a mammoth rally on Saturday. Before that, he went to get Philadelphia cheesecakes. Crowd went crazy. But later on that night, a Philadelphia police officer shot in the head by thugs. He's on life support. He needs your prayers, ladies and gentlemen, because Philly is out of control. And I saw that DA speak, the Alvin Bragg of Philly. George Soros supported Larry Krasner. I wanted to spit at the TV because he's responsible for this lawlessness. He started this in Philly. Well, let's talk about New York City and weed everywhere. Weed everywhere. The stench, especially in the heat, just waffles into your nostrils, curls your hairs. It makes you almost want to regurgitate. In fact, earlier today, there was a demonstration right in Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights against a legal weed dispensary. There were very few of them because there's so many illegal pot shops open, weed shops, smoke shops, 3,000 in New York City. The folks have said enough is enough. There's the stench of weed everywhere. They had one on 86th in the corner of 3rd in which the guy boldly said, "You can't touch me." The Sheriff Anthony Miranda, who reminds me of Lurch of the Addams Family, urine, is in charge of an effort that has gone awry. I've been hinting at this for quite some time, Justin Ellick. I said, wait, when the Sheriff's Department of the City of New York, which is not a law enforcement agency, it is a revenue-raising department, raids these illegal pot shops, which they've done 400 raids out of 3,000 that are existent. They seize all the product, and I've always asked the deputy sheriffs, where do you deposit it? Where is it kept? And the deputy sheriffs have told me, mind my own business. And I said, no. I'll bet you don't have enough space to be storing all this weed and its ancillary products. And it turns out the New York Daily News on Sunday had an extensive piece which came from union members of Anthony Miranda's office of the Sheriff's Department. That guy's got to be fired. They are taking marijuana when they seize it, and they are stuffing it everywhere. They're stuffing it into open cars, unlocked cars. They're stuffing it into barrels in parking lots. They're stuffing it into offices that aren't even offices of the New York Sheriff's Department. They have no control of this. And I'm telling you, with no controls, with absolutely no standards and no disciplines of where all the marijuana and the marijuana products are then brought once they padlock an illegal weed shop, you know damn well a lot of that is going right out the back door and into the black market. So how the hell are you going to be closing weed shops now that you finally have the enforcement that you need at the state level? And not even have a safe, secure location to keep all the products that you seize. I mean, the union has exposed Anthony Miranda as the sheriff appointed by Eric Adams as a guy who has told them stuff the marijuana wherever you can find space. In barrels, in parking lots, in open cars that are not locked, in trunks that are not locked. I mean, everywhere and anywhere. And you know that weed is going right out the back door and into the black market, and some people are getting paid. I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. In fact, my wife Nancy will be joining me tomorrow on the Rip and Read, as she does every Tuesday and Thursday here at WABC 12 to 1. And this has got to be exposed. Daily News did a great job on Sunday. Obviously, the union is no longer hiding in anonymity. The union is so pissed off at the head sheriff of the New York City Sheriff Department, again, not a law enforcement agency, even though Anthony Miranda was formerly a sergeant with the NYPD, but not one that was very trusted, to be quite honest with you on that. But something's got to be done about this. I mean, we talk about Tony LoBianco, who passed away recently, great actor, remember, best known for that movie that talked about heroin being taken out of the NYPD safe area, the French Connection. I mean, this is bales and bales of marijuana. And the Adams administration has no checks and balances on Anthony Miranda. And it's time that he get a pink slip. It's time that he be sent into retirement, because this situation in New York City is completely out of control. It's Vice City, it's Weed City, and it's got to stop.
Talking about this is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
All right, Curtis, it looks like you have your first opposition, your first candidate jumping into the mayoral race on the Republican side. Junior Cheesecake head Alan Rosen, not making the official announcement, but definitely meeting with political advisors, including Hank Scheinkoff, who has run some successful campaigns in recent years.
He'll pick his pockets, that's for sure. They got a whale. They got this whale here. They're going to take every nickel, diamond, penny that he has, and he's going to have ougats at the end of a campaign.
You think so?
Oh, there's no doubt. This is what these consultants do. They take your money and they give you ougats. They give you bupkis.
Well, Mr. Rosen seems to be kind of a middle of the road or maybe even left-wing Republican, which potentially could help him in a city like New York. And it seems to me, from watching this looks like it could be a real challenge to you if you decide to run.
I love it. I need a primary challenge so desperately because people like Noam Laden and James Flippin will ignore any Republican candidate if there's not a primary, if there are not debates. You see, and I'm going to have a cheesecake summit. In fact, Sid Rosenberg was a little confused. I was listening to him this morning. You know, whoever strokes Sid at that particular moment, he's supporting. You know, it's Sid. I want him to moderate the cheesecake summit, and we'll do it at Junior's in Brooklyn or the one in Times Square, because he says he wants to be a hospitality mayor. And I said, hey, no problem. I'll be the mayor. I'll deal with the crime. I'll deal with the serious issues. You can shake people's hands there in Times Square like Joe Louis used to at the Sands Hotel,
right?
You know, out in Las Vegas. You can be the greeter for New York City.
Yeah.
I'll make him a deal that he can't refuse because you know what I got that he doesn't have?
What's that?
Listen.
You know, you walked in, you said to Curtis, he said, there's our next mayor.
Next mayor is right. Everybody's got to vote for Curtis Lee for next mayor because this mayor is a joke.
This guy is
Who is that?
Toughest guy in the world, Chuck Zito, who just happens to live down the road from Mr. Junior Cheesecake at his mansion in the very affluent Westchester County.
Wait, so are you suggesting that Mr. Zito might do something to Alan Rosen?
Look, Chuck doesn't have to do anything. He just rings your doorbell, you open the door, and you realize, it's okay, no mas. But I need him to run. And remember, I tried to do a hummus summit with you and your son.
That's right, I remember
and
that.
Donald Trump,
yeah.
He didn't show up.
He did not, no.
On Main Street there in Patterson, you know, the Arabic area, the Christian and the Muslim Arabs. And you bogarted me, you Welcher. You didn't even pay your part of the hummus summit.
I did not. I brought the entire family. We all had hummus and fruit drinks, and we ate kebabs, and Donald Trump was a no-show. There was a bunch of reporters there who asked us a bunch of questions.
Well, that's why I was there. The reporters were there, you know. I'm like Lens Lice.
And at some point when you weren't looking, I got up and left, and I left you with the bell. That is a true story,
yeah, because you said, me and my son, we had to go to the Giants
We did.
game.
We had tickets to the Giants. Yeah.
They had their throwback Lawrence Taylor jerseys on, and they did the bird, and they left me with the bill. And I hate hummus.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I figured, hey, you know, hummus summit.
Right.
Now cheesecake summit. I wish it were Italian cheesecake, much lighter, because
that's
the
true.
Junior's cheesecake, you know, the kind of cheesecake you Jews eat, it's like sinkers.
Well, you know what? You could get the lactose intolerant crowd on your side because they can't eat Junior's cheesecake.
Yeah, well, I am lactose intolerant, and I woofed at him. You notice
I
did a video from Junior's in Brooklyn yesterday. I said, you want to get into the gladiators ring? Bring it on. I had a slice there. He was, people were like, wow, you don't even give somebody a chance to breathe when they want to jump into a political race.
What did they think of? Because if people didn't see this video, I'm sure they can go online, WABCradio.com, and see it, or on our Instagram page or wherever else, TikTok even for that matter. You actually went to Junior's yesterday and you laid down the gauntlet against Mr. Rosen in his own restaurant.
Damn right.
Was he there at the time?
Hell no. You think on a Sunday he's going to be in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn?
No.
But he claims, you know, he's a blue-collar guy. Yeah, right. Why do they always say, I'm not a blue-collar guy.
Right.
I mean, I make a lot of money here at WABC. I don't see most of it because it goes for child support. Right. That's my problem. But the point being is, I don't ever declare myself to be blue collar. Mayor Eric Adams, I'm blue collar. Yeah, in a $5,000 customized suit.
Right.
This guy, I'm blue collar. Yeah, where do you live? Scarsdale in Westchester County? By the way, Chuck Zito will be paying you a visit.
Oh, geez. I saw, your astrology, what do they call this?
I live by that. My horoscope.
Horoscope, that's the word I was looking for.
Astrological chart from the New York Post. I live by it.
You do? Do you really?
Absolutely.
Wait, so do you read it every single day?
Every day. It's the best, the New York Post one, and it's kept me out of harm's way. I can't tell you how many times I've read it, and boy, I could see if I went forward with what I had intended to do, I would have gotten whacked.
Really?
Absolutely, twice.
Wait, how did it save you? What did it say? Did it tell you not to go outside or something?
Basically said, watch your back. Today, you would be very wise to stay under the radar screen.
Well, now, was that the day you were in that taxi cab with the mobsters who were trying to kill you? What did it say that day?
Unfortunately, I didn't follow my horoscope.
Seriously? That was the day you didn't read it?
Ronald Reagan didn't follow his horoscope until after Hinckley shot him, and Nancy reminded him, you see, your horoscope said you shouldn't have gone to that hotel that day. You see,
wait, it actually said you shouldn't have gone to that hotel that day, or it said what?
No, she had she
had a private person that was doing it, right?
Said, Ronald, where is he going? Ronnie should not be going there today. Yeah, that's fact.
Huh.
That's fact. I live by it.
Well, yours today says you need to let someone know that if they don't stop trading in rumors, they're going to regret it. You don't have to make threats, you just did actually, to remind them that you have more on them than they have on you.
Yeah. I know the ingredients of his Junior's cheesecake, and I will reveal it to the world.
Really?
This is like Mac sauce, to Mickey D's, Ray Kroc. He never wanted the ingredients of Mac sauce to get out of there.
Right.
It's like they kept the ingredients in Fort Knox. I know the ingredients of the Junior's cheesecake.
I mean, the Big Mac, what is it, like Russian dressing and ketchup or something?
No, it's not, you schmuck, you putz. And I'm not giving it up to you.
You're not. Oh, right, because I forgot. You worked in the McDonald's. You
That's
actually
right.
know.
I took the oath of allegiance to Ray Kroc. I will never give up the formula of the Mac sauce. And Aaron, what's his name? Alan Rosen.
Alan Rosen, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What, third generation?
I think that's right.
That means he inherited it.
Yeah.
He didn't have to work from scratch. I know the ingredients to the famous Junior's cheesecake. And if he goes forward in a debate, we got Studio 77 right here. I'm going to see if Dominic Carter's willing to moderate it. He's the best moderator in the business. And then I will reveal to the world what the Junior's cheesecake recipe is.
Would we be shocked by this? Is that why I would imagine I can figure out what's in a cheesecake ingredient.
Let's just say that just like when Queen Antoinette said, let them eat cake, I know that this guy, Alan Rosen, is going to say, let them eat cheesecake.
Really? Okay. I'll be very curious. I hope it happens. Did you see, again today, New Jersey Transit? Huge problems this morning. Last week, it was the week from hell. Almost every single day, there was a power outage.
Yep.
The lines were down. Again, during the morning rush, all of a sudden we get an alert. Almost half the lines that go in and out of Penn Station aren't able to. And there they are. And now we're just days away. July 1, New Jersey Transit raises its fare 15%. And the service has just been terrible for weeks on end.
Where is your half-in-the-bag Governor Murphy? He doesn't go to Penn Station. He doesn't go to Hoboken. He doesn't go to Journal Square. He doesn't go anywhere where commuters are, whether it's the PATH train, it's Amtrak, it's New Jersey Transit. He is like MIA, missing in action. Is he drying out? I mean,
he might be.
Because remember, when he was on with Tucker Carlson in the middle of the lockdown and pandemic, he said that it is vital that we keep liquor stores open.
Well,
and I remember everybody
thank God
said,
for that.
Right, he said, why do you say that liquor stores have to be open? And he was mumbling and stumbling because, he shakes until cocktail hour at night. Where's he been?
It's a great question. He did put out some statement last week that he was outraged by what was happening, but how about bringing all the sides together, right? You have New Jersey Transit who continues to say, hey, we don't own the tracks, we don't own the overhead lines, it's all Amtrak, and so blame Amtrak anytime something goes down.
Amtrak Joe Biden, who's more infamous for riding Amtrak, right? But bottom line is, what the hell is on Murphy's head? I mean, is that his hair? It looks like a raccoon.
I thought it's kind of a nice haircut he's got going on.
Oh, my God. What the hell happened to his hair? Are you sure he's not drying out?
He might be. I don't know.
This guy is nowhere to be seen.
No.
Ever since he disappeared for that earthquake, right? Where the hell has he been?
Yeah, these poor riders, they're every day it's some surprise. They can't get to work. They can't get back home.
You know who's responsible. I'm not going to blame Murphy for this. The here and now, yes, but it goes back to Shamu. El Jefe, Chris
it's 100%
Christie,
his fault, yeah.
who canceled the ARC tunnel.
That's right.
They had already begun digging the project. It would have provided New Jersey Transit with its own tracks. And he said ixnay because Mary Pat, or whatever the hell her name is.
That's right, Mary Pat.
Olive oil wife said, no. And, as rough and tough as Shamu El Jefe Chris Christie pretends to be, he's nothing but his wife's Maytag. Nothing but his Maytag.
Yeah.
By the way, I want you to get the hell out of here now and go talk
pleasure.
to James Flippin about this Cheesecake Summit. I want full coverage.
All right, I'm going to do a deep dive, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, because I am going to expose the ingredients that go into the Junior's cheesecake. 3 generations. And remember, he inherited it. He didn't have to pull himself up by his bootstraps.
That's true.
Bring them on! I want all competitors to take me on in a Republican primary. Right here, Studio 77. Let's get it on. A great debate.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read, featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read.
She's crafty. She gets around. She's crafty. She's always down. She's crafty. She's got it great. She's crafty. And she's just my type. She's crafty.
Oh, yeah, Beastie Boys. This should be the theme song for Governor Kathy Hochul. I say Hochul because she's full of nonsense, and she proves it increasingly each day. So let's start with the new acronym that I am going to apply every time I talk about Governor Kathy Hochul. She's a GIF. You know what a GIF is, Justin Ellick, you hipsters and millennials? Isn't that like a moving picture with no sound, a GIF? No. GIF is the acronym for grifter, incompetent, and fugazi. That's right. Kathy Hochul and her husband are grifters. She is completely incompetent, and she's a fugazi because she can't take a position and stick to it if her life depended on it. For instance, when she was being challenged by Lee Zeldin after a very combustible primary that involved Andrew Giuliani, Rob Astorino, and Harry Wilson, Zeldin survived, and right out of the box, what was Kathy Hochul telling all of New York residents? If you ain't with me, get the hell out of here.
The fate of democracy in this country. That's what we're fighting for, my friends. We are fighting for democracy. We're fighting to bring government back to the people and out of the hands of dictators. And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values.
And the exodus continues. And the buses, they come back empty? No, they have the migrants who the state has put up $2.5 billion. That's our tax dollars. And city has put up $4 billion. That's a total of $6.5 billion to house, clothe, feed, and give the illegal aliens everything for free. That's Kathy Hochul. Now, recently she claimed that because she now has an apartment in the Upper East Side, we learned that from the John Katzimatidis show on Sunday mornings from 8 to 10. He was interviewing Kathy Hochul, and she said, oh, by the way, I have an apartment on the Upper East Side. And John said, well, hopefully it'll put you in touch with people because your aide-de-camps are obviously not telling you the truth about what's going on in New York City, and especially with congestion pricing. So she claims that while going to a diner somewhere in the Upper East Side and having, watery eggs over with toast and bacon, that 4 different people came up to her and said, you can't impose congestion pricing on us. You just can't. And based on 4 conversations with 4 random folks she didn't even know, she decided to put congestion pricing, which would have charged you $15 for every trip south of 60th Street on the island of Manhattan down to the Battery. She decided to put it on hold.
I have come to the difficult decision that implementing the planned congestion pricing system risks too many unintended consequences for New Yorkers at this time. For that reason, I have directed the MTA to indefinitely pause the program.
And so many of you were like, oh, you were doing the tarantella, the horror. You were cheering. Oh, she's come to her senses. And Justin and Alec, what did I say? No, she hasn't. She'll flip-flop. She has no soul. This is a woman, when she was the county clerk of Erie County, said she would never give licenses to illegal aliens. Now, as governor, she wants to give them everything, including a brand new car, at our taxpayers' expense. Well, just yesterday, she did another turnabout. Another, as Eric Adams says, pivot and shift. No. She's not putting congestion pricing on hold. Now she's contemplating a different resolution to this situation.
$15 is a lot to start with. We have studied congestion pricing around the world. It is customarily started at a lower price point.
So now it's like, well, if it's less, we'll impose it. Remember, they never took the cameras down. They told her, the Biden administration, when she stood side by side with President Joe Biden, when he signed that fake, phony, fraudulent executive order that supposedly, in his mind and to some Democrats, would seal the border. It hasn't, and it won't. But she was side by side with him, and then she was taken aside, and she was told by the schmuck to butts, Chuck E. Cheese Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries, who can't wait to become Speaker of the House and help destroy our country, and members of the Biden administration, that things weren't looking really good in the polls in New York State. In fact, Trump was actually in single digits behind Biden. But more importantly, for the local congressional elections that occur every 2 years, those seats that the Democrats were hoping to win back from the last congressional race, in which Long Island and the Mid-Hudson got enough new Republicans to give the majority to the Republicans and the speakership to the Republicans in the House, that if she didn't change her tune on congestion pricing, it could be a red wave. Well, guess what? Now she's mezze, poco. And once again, she has earned the acronym that I've bestowed upon her, GIF. She's a grifter with a husband. She's incompetent. And when it comes to congestion pricing, she is a real fugazi.
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
And they keep coming across that border by the thousands. And their choice destination is Nueva York. Nueva York, courtesy of Catholic Charities, which aids and abets their travel with tax dollars from the Biden federal administration. They get their cut, and we get screwed. We get ugats, we get bupkis, we get the invoices, we get the bills to house them, feed them, clothe them, and give them benefits that our own homeless don't get, especially our veterans, whether they served in peacetime or wartime. But let me give you the updates, because it will become the central theme, I believe, of the coming debate between former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden, who is hunkered down. I don't know if he's getting shots of speed to get him up to par for Thursday. I don't know if former President Trump is drinking liquid Prozac to keep him cool, calm, and collected. But the point is, they're going to be debating about this migrant issue across the border somewhere within the 90 minutes of the debate. But let me give you the updates here. Nationally, more Americans now believe that illegal aliens, migrants, should be deported than ever before. That is in stark contrast to the polls back in August of 2023 when they were pouring through the porous borders that Joe Biden refused to seal up, and many of them coming to New York City and New York State. Well, now most New York voters say that the migrant influx is crippling our city and crippling our state. That never occurred before in polling, and they just keep coming in more and more and more. And some of them are committing crimes, all kinds of crimes, and people are making excuses for them. For instance, so many young children have been put out into our subway systems to sell candies and drinks on their own because the parent or the mother or the uncle or the wannabe dad who maybe rented the kid from the day from a migrant shelter knows that to these little children who are like little cherubs, little angels, people will buy stuff from them if for no other reason because they are shocked. Why is this child out here on their own? There are all kinds of pedophiles who are preying on them. And yet many of them are left on their own. And so instead of dealing with that and cracking down with that, the city is actually saying, well, wait a second, peddling fruit cups and candy on the subway, it's all illegal. Nobody has a license for that. That the problem here is that the mothers don't have child care. So now, Justin Ellick, in addition to everything else we're giving free to the migrants, everything free, there is now a move in our city council, which is pro-illegal alien and anti-American citizens, and certainly if they're veterans down on their luck. They want to be able to give women, this is nuts, they want to be able to give them free child care so that they don't have to send their children into the subway selling candies and drinks. What the hell does one have to do with the other? I mean, what kind of a parent does this? In the subways, even if they didn't know what the subways are like, they should have known within the first hour all these pervs that are coming up to them as women, and many of them are very short and mostly Ecuadorians. They're perving on the women, and they're perving on the kids, boys and girls. How do you let them out there? And nothing is being done to stop it or prevent it. Number two, I've been railing about this for over a week. Outside of the Wyndham Hotel, which was a 4-star hotel in Long Island City, the backyard of AOC's district, all out crazy Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who loves the migrants and hates America and patriotic Americans. There were now counted 6 guys who were outside at 4:30 in the morning last Monday. And they were told by 2 police officers that they had to cease and desist because they were making noise. They were causing all kinds of interruptions to people who were trying to get sleep in Long Island City because they had to go to work. So when the cops rolled up to them, there were 3 10-year-olds who were out in the street with them, and they said, whose parents are they? And the guys wouldn't say anything. And then finally, after the cops were trying to get information out of them in Spanish, they flipped the bird to the 2 police officers and gave them a beatdown. 6 of them. They did not show any video. They did not mention the countries of origin of the 6 that were arrested who were Hispanic, clearly. I have been beating every conceivable outlet that I have access to find out, were these guys from Venezuela? Because 9 out of 10 of them are. Because it was Maduro who released the criminals from his jail systems, took advantage of the offer that was too good to refuse, Joe Biden inviting them into America as their Papa Chulo. And then I realized the reason that I'm running into all kinds of roadblocks is because of the new battle cry of the Democrats whenever the stories of illegal aliens committing crime surfaces from coast to coast. They now have a new buzzword.
Great citizens.
But there's a lot of fear-mongering.
There's a lot of fear-mongering. Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of remarkable that the polls I look at, the national polls, actually Americans still support immigrants. They support immigration.
Wait a second, could I hear specifically that word fear-mongering?
Fear-mongering.
So this is the new talking point. Whenever you try to access information like who are these people, what country are they from, do they have criminal backgrounds, are they illegal aliens, migrants, now all of a sudden you're met with a machine gun of retaliatory responses that you're just fear-mongering. So now remember, it's a week later, 6 migrants, we don't know from which country, they won't tell me, supposedly arrested for attacking 2 police officers. We haven't seen the video. Vicious attack. Children out in the streets at 4:30 in the morning outside of the Wyndham Hotel in which we house them, clothe them, feed them in at $400 a night in the backyard of AOC. That's a congressional district. And all of a sudden they've shut down all information. And you're going to see this happening every time a migrant case emerges in which they are being accused of being the criminals. But then again, we have Randall's Island. Randall's Island is a place that most people don't go to. It's in the shadow of the Triborough Bridge. It'll never be the RFK Bridge to me. It's the Triborough Bridge. On Randall's Island, you have the Fire Department Training Academy where they actually light up a building, a facsimile building there to teach the men and women how to put out fires. You have sewerage pits. You have Kirby Psychiatric for the criminally insane. You have a shelter, you have drug rehab, you have baseball fields that are not as populated as they were years ago because less and less Americans are playing baseball. Thank God for the Dominicans, the Venezuelans, the Cubans, and the Puerto Ricans for keeping the sport of baseball and softball alive. And then you have the soccer fields that have been covered with these enormous tents that now house mostly Venezuelans. They're the majority. They run it like a house gang, and Africans who are the docile ones. And the Venezuelans have been picking on them, stabbing them, telling the guards there'll be no searches. You can't search any of their personal belongings. And the NYPD is not permitted to come into the Randall's Island tents unless there is an emergency. So that means if there are 2 cops, which are always assigned to the outside, they can't even go into the tents if they have to use the facilities. They can't. And what is Eric Adams, who was off fundraising in the Hamptons all weekend long, getting wine-dined and pocket-lined by all the wealthy, the rich, who don't experience these things at all, who are helping him with his legal defense fund because there are 4 pending federal investigations against his administration. He'll soon be indicted, so they're nourishing him up with his legal fees, and they're actually contributing to his reelection fund, the chutzpah. And this is what he had to say about the attacks on the police, the attacks on the security guards, and the attacks on the minority of migrants out there in Randall's Island by the vicious Venezuelans who rule the tents like they're a house gang.
I keep telling folks, you have 3,000 people on Randall's Island that cannot do anything all day. That's just not right. It's just inhumane. And so, if folks would take a trip there, talk to the people like I do, and communicate with them. When I walk inside those hercs, those people give me a standing ovation. And they say, thank you, Mayor.
Of course, because they don't get prosecuted. They could get to stab people. They run it like a house gang. They shake people down. They sell illegal products outside on tables. They go into nearby East Harlem. They rob, they shoplift, they bring the products back. It's like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Of course they say thank you, Eric Adams, because he has permitted there to be this criminality that exists amongst the Venezuelans specifically because they have been given an increased presence. They are untouchables, according to the Biden administration. This is a double disgraziata. This is a double shanda. The mayor was in the Hamptons this weekend fundraising instead of dealing with the chaos that he left behind in the city that he says he's mayor of.
Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
Now this the hot Jimmy Snooker off the top rope, super fly. Might get in the tub with all my ice.
Jimmy Superfly Snooker off the top ropes. Cardi B. Oh, with a blast from the past. Stop this rap crap, though. Stop this rap crap. The only reason I'm playing Cardi B is because AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Princess of the Socialists of America, in waiting for when the king, Bernie the Altacaca Sanders, dies. Can't be soon enough. Metaphorical, of course. But he took the stage at St. Mary's Park in the heart of the South Bronx. They renamed it People's Park, as did AOC, all out crazy, and the congressional candidate, incumbent Bowman, that they're trying to save, who's like down by 20 points in the polls to Latimer, the county executive who has what? Sleepy eyes, is that what they call it? Justin Alec, you're from Westchester. Sleepy eye syndrome, whatever. He's way ahead. He's going to kill Bowman tomorrow, the final day of voting. And in fact, AOC was so helpful to Bowman that when they cut up the congressional lines, they took Co-op City out of her congressional district, which was a gold mine for AOC votes. And she said, nah, give it to my homie Bowman. He's going to need it for the challenge that he's going to face. And boy, Co-op City, which used to be Freedom Land right along the Hutch, is exactly that. But that will not do anything for Bowman against Latimer, who has taken it to him. And yet AOC thought that she could dance and prance on stage at St. Mary's Park, act like she was Cardi B Jr., and somehow get young people to come out and vote for Bowman, and able to overwhelm all the old Altacaca Jews in Scarsdale who are coming out by the hundreds to vote for Latimer over the anti-Semite Bowman. She's jumping up and down on stage. She's swirling. You thought she was Cardi B there. And then Bowman came out. Filthy mouth, dropping the F-bomb, thinking he was like a rapper. Horrible, horrible. And they had their own peeps demonstrating against them from the river to the sea crowd. You know, there's a big chasm now because they claim that AOC, Bernie the Altacaca Sanders, and Bowman are too close to Joe Genocide Biden. That's great to see. And they can only pull like maybe 2,000 followers. I mean, this was St. Mary's Park in the heart of the South Bronx where Bernie the Altacaca Sanders drew 18,000 when he was running against Hillary in the New York State Democratic primary back in 2016. 18,000. They could barely draw 2,000 this Saturday. Things are not looking good for AOC, I'm telling you. She used to be the princess. She wasn't untouchable. She'll probably be reelected, at least win the primary tomorrow against Dolan, who was with me in Corona on Saturday protesting against the fact that they want to legalize prostitution in every nook, cranny, and corner of this state of New York. He's a good Democrat running against AOC. If you happen to be a Democrat, please vote for Dolan in the congressional district of AOC. Tomorrow's the last day of voting. But AOC went nuts at the rally. AOC went nuts recently in a congressional hearing when, like two scorpions in a brandy glass, she took on Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words
down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl?
I
don't think
we are going to move and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
Let me ask you a question, Justin. Her name is Sandy Ocasio from Tarrytown Heights. She lived there from the age of 5 on, went to high school there. Was she a pom-pom girl, cheerleader, whatever? She was never like this before. You know, trying to act like a homegirl. I'm from the Bronx. And then all of a sudden, she's getting conspiratorial because she's afraid of her own shadow. When you think of AOC, it's fear, fright, hysteria, and hype. And she has this image that when Donald Trump is reelected president of the United States, he's coming for her.
What happens to you if Donald Trump wins? What do you do? What's your first move?
I mean, it sounds nuts, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy threw me in jail.
Really?
He's out of his mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did his whole first campaign around lock her up. Like, this is his motto.
Oh, he didn't say that, He said he didn't say the cheesing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I take him at his word. I take him at his word. I take him at his word when he says that he's going to round up people. I take him at his word when he threatens journalists. I take him at his word. I feel like what we saw in his first presidency was an amuse-bouche to what his intentions are. He has learned from his mistakes of appointing professionals, and he will not make that mistake next time.
I know very little French, but hey, AOC, fermez la bouche, right? Is that correct French there? And by the way, what is she famous for?
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Could I hear one more time?
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Give me the Trinity.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Man, your guy Bone is going down at feet.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.